At the height of the boom, even companies that had never made any revenue were able to go public by issuing an initial public offering, or IPO, and raise money. On paper, some people became millionaires practically overnight. The Nasdaq Composite Index, one of the most watched stock market metrics, rose by 582% from January 1995 to March 2000. The situation was risky, however, because these companies were highly overvalued due to their lack of a plan to turn a profit. Analysts were instead focused on their ability to attract internet traffic. Speculation, or the purchase of risky stocks at a low price with the expectation that the price will rise enough to make a later profit, the dot-com speculation bubble was just a house of cards. When investment capital began to dry up, many of the companies that had caused so much excitement went bankrupt, and the bubble burst. Market panic resulted in massive sell-offs, and by 2002, investor losses from the dot-com boom were estimated at around $5 trillion. The dot-com bubble's bursting is credited with helping to trigger an 8-month economic recession starting in March 2001. However, the recession is considered one of the milder ones in the country's history, and not all of the companies of the dot-com era succumbed to bankruptcy. Some of those that survived became the juggernauts we're familiar with today, such as Microsoft, Amazon, eBay, Qualcomm, and Cisco. After a record-breaking turnout, Barack Obama was the first ever African American to be voted to the office of U.S. President, winning the popular vote by more than 10 million votes and securing a vast majority of electoral votes. Obama's message was hope, and it resonated with the American people. As the War of Terror raged on, economic difficulties on the home front compounded the feelings of insecurity. In 2008, losses on a rapidly declining housing market within the U.S. caused a chain reaction of losses across the global financial market, causing a massive and sustained economic contraction known as the Great Recession. The recession marked the most significant economic downturn in the U.S. since the Great Depression of 1929. Thousands of Americans could not make their loan payments and lost their homes, businesses went bankrupt, and the U.S. government scrambled to help alleviate the damage. In 2009, under the direction of newly elected President Barack Obama, the Congress passed a series of acts to alleviate the issues caused by the recession and to install reforms to ensure it could never happen again. In 2013, the Afghan military officially took over control of operations in their country, and the U.S. announced a timetable for a complete U.S. withdrawal by 2016. During the election of 2016, Republican nominee Donald Trump and Democrat Hillary Clinton faced off in one of the ugliest elections the country had ever experienced. While Clinton ran on her vast experience within the federal government, Trump's campaign was unlike any that had been run before. Trump appealed to a group of Americans who had never felt they'd been marginalized in recent years, and to people who had distrust in the government. Clinton was defeated by Trump, who secured the majority of electoral votes. Almost immediately, suspicion of Russian and Chinese involvement in tampering with the election arose. In 2017, President Donald Trump took office and reversed the planned withdrawal as an emerging terrorist organization known as the Islamic State began operating within Afghanistan. Trump authorized the use of the U.S.'s largest non-nuclear bomb in an act which coincided with his decision to continue the U.S.'s military presence on the ground. After another 2 years of conflict, the U.S. and Taliban once again opened peace negotiations. And after a series of back-and-forth cancellations, an agreement was at last reached in 2020. In early 2020, a new type of virus emerged from Wuhan, China. By mid-March 2020, all 50 U.S. states had reported at least one positive case of COVID-19, and nearly all of the new infections were caused by community spread and not by contracting the disease abroad. The COVID-19 pandemic took a heavy toll on Americans economically, politically, and psychologically. and revealed deep divisions between Americans' views of the role of government in a crisis, particularly with regard to vaccine mandates. In 2020, the nation again faced a challenging and incendiary election. Incumbent Donald Trump, running for re-election, faced off against former Vice President Joe Biden at the height of the pandemic. Again, domestic issues of racial injustice, gun control, and appointments to the Supreme Court were the chief concerns of the race. As the ongoing health crisis further divided the parties, the psychological and physical toll of the pandemic became a centerpiece for both candidates. After a contentious election, during which the counting lasted longer than normal due to early election and mail-in ballots prompted by the COVID-19 pandemic, Biden won the presidency, winning the majority of electoral votes as well as the popular vote. The outcome of the election was immediately contested by Trump and the Republicans who made claims of fraud. Trump would claim repeatedly that the election was stolen and increased distrust in the American electoral process. On January 6, 2021, as the U.S. Congress met to certify the election, large crowds of Trump supporters led by the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers, both far-right anti-government extremist organizations with ties to white supremacist organizations, the groups conspired to take the U.S. Capitol building and force the Congress to certify the election as fraudulent and instate Trump as the rightful president. On January 6th, the mob outside of the Capitol building breached through security and entered the Capitol, forcing the Congress to flee and Capitol Police to engage with force in some cases. When the police had at last cleared the building, counting of the electoral votes resumed, and Vice President Pence proclaimed Biden the winner. In 2021, Joe Biden assumed the office of the presidency alongside Vice President Kamala Harris, the first African American and first woman to hold the office. Under President Joe Biden, the U.S. military at last began its final withdrawal from Afghanistan. As it did, the Taliban quickly rushed to fill the gap and toppled the fragile Afghan government, undoing the work that was done for the last 20 years. The following year, 2022, the Russian Federation invaded the Republic of Ukraine, and the United States began funneling aid to the country to combat Russia's expansion into the region. Today, Biden's administration continues to push for progressive policies, both at home and abroad, and still combats the intense political division within the country. As the 2024 election looms, the future of the United States seems to hang in the balance. Since the signing of the Declaration of Independence in 1776, the nation has endured substantial and often violent changes politically, socially, and economically. But this is, in and of itself, the defining attribute of the United States, that despite the trials and tribulations, she always emerges intact and stronger than before. The beauty of the United States and its people is their resilience and its ability to adapt and change. Today, the United States remains a world leader to be respected and admired. Its population of more than 334 million people is one of the most diverse countries in the world. Its landscape is painted with some of the most magnificent natural features on the planet, with hundreds of recognized national and historical parks, preserves, monuments, and sites preserved by the federal government. From the humblest beginnings, the people of the United States of America have fought for what they believed was right and continue to do so to this day. The indomitable American spirit which characterizes the best of Americans has helped bring the country to new heights in the realm of politics, science, business, and culture. And while they're far from perfect, the American people continue to strive for greatness, never ceasing to prove themselves worthy of the great experiment started by their revolution nearly 250 years ago.